Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Gospel and Survival. I'm here with the best, aka Ethan. And today we're going to be talking about growing up as a pastor's kid. Now, I've never really considered myself a pastor because that ain't what Jesus called me when I was called. But I've definitely done that type of work, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Every skill and gifting that God has placed in me has been definitely called upon while I've been a survival instructor. More so than it ever has when I was in regular church ministry, which is kind of shocking, definitely to me, but I've grown accustomed to it. But all that said, when I started out in my ministry, that's what I did. I'd go, started out as a janitor. I'd clean whatever needed to be cleaning. The church was immaculate when I was around, and I was there every day.
Yeah.
So I kept that place clean as a whistle, and I would go around with the senior pastor and help him as I was training. I initially trained with my uncle, who is my mentor. His name's Jerry, and my grandfather, Milton, who is an evangelist. And every Monday we'd have a food pantry, and that's really what Grandpa and Uncle Jerry made me sharp, because they threw me in the furnace, really untested, and said, leave these people to the Lord or pray for them or do whatever.
Yeah.
So I would listen, and once I got the hang of it, the gift, John G. Lake used to say, stir up the gift within you. And I knew the gifts were there, I just didn't know how to activate them.
Yeah.
But being around guys like that, it got me stirred up. And there were other people there as well. Old time Baptist guys were there.
Yeah.
Couple Pentecostal guys, and then Grandpa, who was Baptist-costal, because that's kind of how we were, Baptist-costal.
Interesting crowd for sure.
Right. So that's where I got a lot of experience. We go do street ministry, and so all that was dumped on you guys. So you all got the aftermath of my days and nights doing that kind of ministry. And one thing growing up, when Ethan was born, and I'll show you a picture here of how dedicated we were to this. I told him when he was a young man, maybe 4 or 5 years old, really when he's getting around, talking good, going everywhere with us, what are you going to be when you grow up? Now, Ethan used to be sitting on my lap when I was running the Bible college, writing curriculum, doing whatever. He'd sit right on my lap when he was born and just slap away at my keyboard, puking up on it and everything else. And that's where he got the nickname the best, because he was going to be the best little worker, the best little preacher, yada yada, everything. He's going to be the best at it, right? So that just kind of stuck. So if you hear us calling him best, that's usually what we call him. We don't call him Ethan. But he'd be right there with me for hours because I worked at home doing ministry, while Robin worked out of the house. She was working in the family business at that time, which was a pizza company. So she was doing secretarial duties, logistics there.
Yep.
And me and Ethan were home all day. And so we would watch Trading Spaces and clean the house and do a lot of ministry work online and write books and write ministry curriculum. And getting fights, me and him getting fist fights when he was a little baby. He was a stubborn little turd and just mean as a snake at times. I know where he got it, for sure. But all that said, as he grew up a little bit, I told him, you only have 5 options for a job when you get older. You get apostle, prophet, evangelist, pastor, or teacher. Those are your 5 options. Pick which one you want to be, and that's what you're going to be when you grow up. At the church we were going to later in life, by the time Sydney came around, and maybe even Lindsay, maybe not Lindsay yet.
Yeah,
I don't remember that,
sure.
but definitely Sydney.
She might have been a newborn when.
Yeah, maybe so.
We were close to leaving, yeah.
So with that church, I was working by now as an outreach leader, and I think my 3rd church job. And everything's good, rocking, but I was going through a faith crisis, a lot of turmoil. If you've read my book, The Gospel Survival, you see my testimony about that, about the Bible college takeover, the whole 9. But anyway, during that time there were some prophetic people, very accurate, that operated in that church, and they spoke to, gave words for Ethan. Yeah, Lindsay was born. She was a newborn, you're right. A word for Ethan, a word for Sydney, and a word for Lindsay. All have proven 100% accurate. With Ethan, the word was they seen his face next to me and Robin's face, but they seen it in like a pamphlet or like a bulletin. And they said he was older, but he was going to be with us, and they didn't understand what that was about. Nor did I at the time. I was like, okay, whatever. Hope we're not raising money because he's sick or some nonsense. That's kind of, I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
We just kind of put that one on the shelf because there was zero understanding at the time. Sydney, they said, would be surrounded by books. And they said that they just felt like she was going to be some sort of a scholar or a teacher or something like that. What about Sydney?
Yeah, Sydney definitely is like, I mean, Daniel calls her stepmom, so she's like, she's always going around and just trying to show us how to do things. Cause
Me included.
Because she's the smart one, She's the smart sibling, apparently.
Yeah.
And so she likes to try teaching us little things or just new things that she's learned.
Mm-hmm. And how many books a year is she burning through?
Oh, too many to count.
I know, right?
It's ridiculous.
It's well over 200 or 300 a
Yeah.
year. She's reading voraciously, and that's been going on for years.
Oh, yeah.
And she's 19 now,
Yeah.
and there ain't no stopping her. And she's read through most of my college textbooks. She's got Greg's college textbooks and reading through Greg's books. Learning police tactics and random forensics, whatever. She's weird. Anyway, that is 100% her.
Yeah.
And Lindsay, they said they felt that she was a missionary because she was surrounded by foreign people, and this is the funny one.
Yeah.
Lindsay is just all about Koreans. She loves Korean culture and the people. She loves K-pop music. She's artistically talented. She has taught herself how to write, I believe it's Hangul, the Korean language. She's taught herself how to write it, and she's accurate because we test her constantly.
Yeah,
and
she can
read it, write it, and speak it. And all self-taught, and she's proven very accurate, and it blows our mind.
Yeah,
so
it's cool. It's really
while
cool.
accurate, we don't know where that's going yet.
Yeah.
We don't know if she's going to, take off to Korea one day on us or what. But anyway, the prophetic word is powerful, and when it comes from people seasoned in ministry, there's fruit there. And, for those people that gave that word, if you ever see this, here's the fruit. So God bless you for that. One thing that I always took very seriously is that, I grew up a certain way like we all do. I grew up a certain way and I was treated a certain way when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And I always knew that there was information kept from me. So I was either shielded from certain information because maybe it was embarrassing or it was just uncomfortable to talk about between a parent and child. Or grandparent or whoever. There were financial difficulties growing up and, again, shielded from the reason. Sometimes the electricity would go off and, again, shielded from the reason. We'd go camping growing up and, we'd be gone for weeks or maybe a month, as a family. We just suddenly, lights go off in the house and we're like, well, what's this about? And bam, we're camping for weeks or a month. And, no problem with it. We loved every second of it, but it wasn't until later on we start understanding context of why certain things happen. Just hard times, jobs dry up, etc. And my dad being a contractor and things like that, that was definitely very common. Not so much for him, thankfully, but definitely for others. So understanding the hardships that come with that, I had decided, and we had talked it over with Mom, of course, Robin, that we weren't going to shield you guys from anything. You were going to know 100% of the truth. If there was a problem going on, you'd have the problem explained to you. If you said a bad word, which, sometimes I'll get in the mood and I'll cuss a lot, you'd have to learn the word and why are you saying the word. You'd have to go and look the word up and fully understand it and the history and at times the etymology of the word, and then you'd be permitted to say a certain word. or not. And so that was just the way we raised him growing up. And, obviously Robin and I coming up in ministry and being called ourselves, we're stumbling along trying to do what God called us to do. Yeah. And the kids, you just grew up doing it, right? I mean, probably,
definitely.
I know there were times you definitely hated it, growing up, but maybe that's not the right word per se.
Yeah, I wouldn't really say I hated it growing up. I guess it's more of just a struggle of growing up, being a kid, and because like the way I was raised and everything, I have no problem with that. I think that you guys did a pretty good job. I seem to came out fine at the end of the day, but I guess a lot of things that were hard for me growing up was I've always felt that need to be around people. And I think that was the biggest thing that I struggled with personally. And then obviously I had a bad temper growing up, so I would be the one to drag on a fight with the sibling or to argue or whatever the case may be. But, we always clear it up at the end of the day. Sure. We've never really held grudges against any of each other, like any of the family, because we just, that's how we joke now. We just we talk crap to each other.
Yeah, you'd think we're the most abusive family ever if you're around us tight. We talk mad trash nonstop, and it's just it's just fun to us. It's just fun, but that brings up points because you weren't around people, and that was the struggle on the parent side. Me and Mom, we were always being accosted by family. If we ever listened to any family member, we would not be where we are today at all. We wouldn't have our business. We wouldn't have the ministry. We wouldn't be doing anything we do.
That's true.
If we listened to any single person. And that's the bad thing. And that's the draw that we all walk and face, is that everyone is telling us, you're going the wrong way. That's not right. What you need to do is this, that, and the other.
Definitely.
Not that all the advice was bad, because there are times I needed a kick in the butt.
We all need that at some
and I went through a period of years where I just kind of felt like God would either use me or wouldn't, and I was just going to sit and twiddle my thumbs and play video games till He decided to send me somewhere.
Yeah.
And that went on for years, and we suffered for that. That said, the Lord used my grandfather, to come and drop some harsh wisdom, at the time. And boy, it pissed me off to no end. But it was exactly, it was just the fuel that I needed to just, in spite of his toxic comment, which was a word from the Lord, that's what I needed to motivate me to jump into action. And that was literally all it took. I tell other people that, what's wrong with that? That seems silly. Not to me. It pissed me off to no end. I never forgot it, and I'm thankful that He told me that. But in a very short span of time, the previous 15 years of effort in ministry was like repeated, in a couple years' time.
Yeah. So,
we homeschooled you guys.
Yep.
Still do. Daniel, we've kind of let down. We failed on our last kid a little bit. Yeah. He's kind of on his own doing his homeschool.
He said that we all gave up on him doing homeschool. So, he's pretty smart though. He knows his stuff and he can do it all himself, but
Yeah. So, he's 15 now, so we're like, whatever, you'll figure it out. But all that said, homeschooling you guys, again, we follow, when you register in our state, we had to organize a homeschool officially, go through the school board, the whole bit. And they have certain things that they require that you teach, and so we did all those things, very simplistic, English, math, science, and Kentucky history, which is thankfully a lot. It's wonderful. So, and we're tied uniquely to it with our family, which is awesome. Being the founding families of Kentucky, which is just awesome. But all that said and done, kids go through that, and we get constant pushback. from everybody, family,
Yeah.
even friends, even people in church communities we went to, which was odd because we were poor. We were poor preachers, and they're like, well, you can't really afford to homeschool because you can't buy the fancy curriculum and all this kind of stuff.
Huh.
I wrote curriculum for a living, so we could come up with stuff. I had it, and I'd write it myself. That was not an issue. I could write it, but people outside that scope don't get that.
Yeah, definitely.
We supplement where we can, but the family was like, they need the social interaction, yada yada yada. I remember the social interaction growing up in school. I hated school.
Yeah.
I loved it up until 4th grade, and from 4th grade till 10th grade, I hated it. 10th grade, I had a great group of friends. I was football star, not a star, but I was really good, decent, for what I was, and I could have went on. So I really had fun my 10th grade year. 11th grade, I hated. Senior year, lucky I was even there. I showed up with a pencil and nothing else, and I just kind of wandered through. Yeah. Graduated in the bottom 4th of my class, but I got through it and graduated, went to college and got straight A's. Go figure. So, isn't that dumb? I mean,
that is dumb.
It was like prison
funny
to me. It truly was prison.
Yeah.
And I'm not friends with anyone from high school, which, there were a lot of people. I was kind of a bully. I was a dick in high school. But, I was dealing with a lot of stuff. And I've repented of all that, and I've repented for people I picked on. But I always wanted to help people as well. And, I was always there to back someone up or take care of somebody when and where I could. But I remember all that very vividly and clearly.
Yeah.
And I didn't want any of that for you guys.
Yeah.
I didn't want you to have to endure all that garbage.
Yeah, we'd definitely be very different if we did.
Well, that brings us to when you did go to school. Because we put you in for a year.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That's true.
And we put you in specifically right at prime time, 4th grade. Because that was my good year. I loved 4th grade. I had a ball. Yeah. Good teacher, everything worked out. And so we put Ethan in. We finally bowed down to family pressure. Yeah. Like, all right, we'll give him the social interaction. We had a big family. There's 4 kids. Me and Robin are at home 24/7 for the most part. Yeah. That's a social unit. We had church every week. We have church every day to this day.
Yeah,
we preach it. All of us preach at each other. We have Congress every day around the dinner table. Yeah. I mean, if somebody's got telling a story, all of a sudden we just stop what we're doing. We all kind of weave our way to where they're at and we listen. It's a unique dynamic, but that's how we've always been. So there was always social interaction, just not so much outside the family.
Yeah. So
I get the resentment and the maybe, the need or the urge to see new faces. Yeah. Totally understand that. Yeah. But so we bowed down to family pressure, put them in school.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Well, it was an interesting experience, to say the least. Yeah. I would say that 4th grade, it wasn't bad at all. I personally enjoyed it. I thought it was perfectly fine. I made a lot of friends, and I got along with anybody I came across pretty easily. I mean, you're all kids. It's pretty easy to get along. Yeah. But, it was just, I think the weirdest thing for me was how competitive kids are. Like, how competitive kids are trying to one-up each other, or they pick on each other just because maybe you're better looking than them, or maybe you got your schoolwork done faster than them, or stuff like that. That happened to me all the time, because I remember me and the smartest kid in the place, he would always, I guess, pick on me. It was like he'd poke me just to annoy me, which I never cared. I thought it was funny. I didn't know why he was doing it. But he would always just be... we'd race each other to finish the work first, because that's just how he was. He was the smartest kid in the place, and he hated that I was doing it just as fast as him.
Well, the problem is, dude, is that you were a year ahead of all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing.
Yeah, I was supposed to be in 5th grade.
Yeah.
At that point, which I almost went into 5th grade, but then at last second, my parents were like, maybe we should just put him in 4th grade.
He was too young.
Yeah.
Again, the professionals
Yeah.
say, well, he has to be age appropriate, yada, yada, yada. You don't want to be Doogie Howser, in the 5th grade, the youngest getting beat up and picked on. They wasn't going to pick on him. That was the last of my worries.
Yeah.
Kid knew how to fight, and he was mean as a snake at times, so I had no fear of that. But you listen to those people because, again, the world tells you this is the way it needs to be, it should be.
Yeah.
And finally you're like, all right, we'll bend the knee for a moment and allow this to happen. And what happened is everybody was the girls, I think, were 2 years ahead of where they were because we kept all of y'all pretty tight on the same track.
Yeah.
Sydney definitely was 2 years ahead.
Yeah.
Lindsay maybe not quite that, but close. So they got to go to school and get straight A's and waste an entire year playing and making friends. They didn't learn anything. They had social interaction for that year, and it reprogrammed all the kids. Every time you all would come home, there was some glitch. Like you'd be acting out like the other kids at school. You're mouthy, angry, competitive, more depressed. Just a litany of issues.
I never really thought about that. But yeah, you're right.
You probably got in trouble more that year than any other.
Yeah, probably, honestly, yeah.
And then the year after, it was more hardship because
now it didn't have that.
Yeah. So we pulled them out. After that 1 year, we were like, this is ridiculous. What a waste of time. And then we learned what they're actually teaching them. And back in our area, they weren't teaching anything bad back then, like they are today. But all that said, it was just like they're getting 2 to 3 hours total schoolwork, but they're there for 8 hours. Yeah. We were like, well, we're doing more than that. And they go 6 days a week at home. Sunday through Friday, everybody did schoolwork. We took Sabbaths off. So anyway, it took an entire another year to get you all back on track to where you were. And then the next year, everybody picked back up. But all of you graduated early. Yeah. You graduated not quite a year earlier than you needed to.
Well, I graduated, I'd say I pretty much was done with schoolwork whenever right before I turned 17.
Yeah. So. And the girls all graduated early. Yeah. And they did more than they needed to. Yeah. And Daniel, he'll probably be on track.
Yeah.
Right at his age.
I think he'll be real close to finishing up soon. I don't even know what grade he's doing right now.
I don't either.
Yeah. I think it's
I think he's
10th or 11th though.
Yeah. Well, he's supposed to be 9th. Technically, but I think he's doing 10th, 11th grade work.
It's possible.
He's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
But whatever. So, but now you got both sides of that picture, and that the spiritual life that we have at home, we're just open and honest. We tell them how it is. Yeah. When justice was dealt out or correction when they were young, I had no problem picking up a PlayStation and fast breaking that thing with my fist and exploding it into pieces right in front of their face. I did not care about anything when something was that bad. I'd turn it up to 50, from 0 to 50, and it was not... I would truly be mad at times, but that was super rare. Most of the time it was an act. Because I'd go back down and
gotta play the part.
Yeah, you got to play the part of the insane lunatic that you never want to cross again, and you know that that's bad. But the one thing that we always did do is say, here's the punishment, and this is why the punishment came. Yeah. And all that was explained. Nobody got beat or things destroyed
without reason.
Without reason. And the reasons were explained. Yeah. And then the repercussions were dealt, you know, and then you suffered the consequences, and then you had to earn your way back. So if it was a video game system, I don't care if I just paid $300 for it, I'd stomp all over it, right? I'm a lunatic like that. Earthly things means zero to me. I would just buy another one in 6 months after you've paid your penance and earned it back, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I did, and that's how we've done it.
Yep.
He's made 2 cars fly, and
Yeah.
very talented individual.
Yep.
But came through both times unscathed. Not your fault. Working midnights, you're going to fall asleep, and out here we're 45 minutes, half hour, 45-minute drive from anything for the most part.
Yeah.
And so people doze off, accidents happen. So they were true accidents in that regard. But again, you learned a little bit, and you had to pay your penance and drive your clunkers and work your way back.
Yep.
But, speaking of the faith realm more, I know that we've always taught you guys about Jesus, and you were always being dragged around half the country to when I'd be speaking at a church or whatever the case. We looked at those a lot as vacation times for us, little mini trips, and so we enjoyed that. We'd stay at people's homes that would invite us, or hotels or whatever, and it was like a big thing for us. It was just an exciting time. But did that part have any effect on you? What did you specifically pick up from any of those times?
So I think what I learned over all those experiences was we went and did a lot of different things. We went and traveled around and went to museums, church events, all that kind of stuff. And I always liked hearing you preach. I always have and always will. But I always learned something from it, whether it was about a different kind of religion or different, or maybe just something that I need to think about in general, like, idolizing something and putting something else over God, because, it's something that we all tend to do at times.
Yeah.
And, just a lot of little things like that. I always learned little things like that. Mm-hmm. But another thing I learned, though, is that, I don't really like religious people, dealing with so many different types of religions and certain religious people, you realize what kind of religious people you'd rather talk to than not, Mm-hmm. And I definitely learned, I think that was probably the biggest thing I learned, honestly, from the whole thing. And it was just
that's
really
one
funny.
Of the, and that brings up a wonderful point, because that's one of the big things growing up as a young person that you're training to be a disciple of Jesus. They're seeing a disciple of Jesus operate as they grow up, and they haven't come to that place of decision yet. Everyone must walk out their own salvation in fear and trembling.
Yes.
So I knew the time would come for each of my children to make the decision to, one, believe in Jesus on their own, and then meet Jesus personally, or have that encounter, or receive his call. Because I believe there are 2 separate things there.
Oh, definitely.
And that kind of speaks to what you're talking about, is there are people that know about Jesus. Yeah. And those are the religious people. They know about Jesus, they agree with the message, they believe it was a real person. They speak the language of the Bible and the church, not so much the Bible, but really the church and the traditions of the church. They speak that language well. So they like the camaraderie and the atmosphere, and they've made a mental decision that they agree with the message, and they confuse that with salvation.
Yes, they definitely.
That is not salvation. That is mental assent, and that is simply agreement with everything going on in the church or the Bible.
Yeah.
You agree with it, you like it, oh yeah, that's good, I'm going to be a part of that. Great, you've made a decision, but you've not yet become a disciple. Yeah. And that's where the majority of Christians today stay and remain for most of them their entire lives.
Yeah.
The Bible also says that if you believe that Jesus is the Son of God and believe God raised him from the dead, great, good for you. Even the demons believe that and are still afraid.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Believing that or agreeing with that message doesn't make you saved. There's more to it. So we have to become the disciple. What is the disciple? One that does what his master does. There is action. So that's picking up your cross, denying yourself. If you are a Christian or you call yourself a disciple, a Christian, everything you did before that time goes away.
Yeah.
Most of the relationships you had, ungodly characteristics, your sin lifestyle. If you were a drunk before you were a Christian, you're not a drunk after you're a Christian. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
You're warring against that because there has been a shift in kingdoms. You went from the kingdom of darkness to the kingdom of light.
Yep.
If you're celebrating traditional church religious holidays, guess what? Those too should be kicked out the door because they predate Christianity by thousands of years.
Oh, yeah.
They have no place in the modern disciple's life. So in the disciple's life, and you're going to hear everything to the contrary because we got a lot of Pharisees, Sadducees, aka religious people that have their own form of godliness but deny the power that can make them free, according to the book of Timothy.
Yeah.
You know? So you got to tell the difference. And so you learned at a young age to tell that difference between religious people and those that were actually doing the will. So I'm glad we were able to establish that early on. That's wonderful. And I know that you had talked about before, you went through a people pleaser phase.
Yes.
Because as a teenager trying to make friends, go out and experience a little bit of the world by yourself. You're flying solo now. You got your own job, got your own wheels. You're out there hitting city streets on the prowl, right? Seeing what's up. I get it.
Yeah.
So, whatever. But, so you're out there, you're working. So everybody, you're welcoming at all walks of life. And what'd you learn real fast?
Yeah, that I shouldn't have.
Yeah, I've warned you your whole life. Yeah.
Yep, so many different kinds of people, and just becoming a people pleaser in general was, it was a demoralizing experience more than anything.
Okay.
Because it makes you think, like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not, just not good at anything or good enough for anything. And I think that's kind of what leads a lot of kids, especially nowadays, into that depression state. Because I experienced that. I had a time where I was just super depressed and didn't want to have anything to do with anything because there was no point, is what I felt like. I had no purpose, no point, no nothing, so I didn't care. And my thought process was, oh, well, if I just got married, I'd be fine, which obviously is not how it works, Right. That's just not how it happens.
Yeah.
You have to have those good, godly relationships and being able to really be with somebody's true self, because a lot of us are kind of fake around people, or we put on a certain act or talk a different way around other people.
Yeah.
But when you're your true, genuine self, that's when people will see what's inside of you. Whether you're from the kingdom of darkness or the kingdom of light, And I've learned that a lot. Like, lately, I'm able to distinguish as soon as somebody says hi to me, I know what side they're on right off the bat. Because it's that spiritual discernment you learn over time, and as you're given that gift of the Holy Spirit and of discernment.
Yeah. The Lord will sharpen that to a razor edge because you can read people quick and fast like that. Yeah. And you just go with the flow of the Spirit, and that's awesome. And that's a lot. That's a lot we could unpack in everything you've said. But I think the key point is that being true to who you are and being yourself at all times. And that's something that you would learn if you hang around us for any length of time, is that I'm as likely to cut you when I'm standing in a church pulpit as I am out in the field doing bushcraft or survival skills.
Yeah.
It's just, it's me. You're getting me one way or the other. I don't put on fake language. I don't act like somebody I am not. I'm just me. God called me as I am, and I'm being sanctified, and I'm set apart as holy, and there's definitely been things that we've done that demonstrate that in our lives. But sanctification's an ongoing process.
Yes.
And there are a handful of things that, I ain't all that sanctified about yet. But it comes. But does the world will tell us those disqualify?
Yeah.
Because of this stumbling block, you're disqualified. No, that's not the way it is. Well, I need to get my act together and then I'll come to Jesus. No, that's not the way it works. You will never, ever get your act together.
Yeah, because without
and then
Jesus,
come to Jesus.
Yeah, because without Jesus, you'll never have somebody to guide you in the right way.
Yeah.
Or show you what steps you need to take to really change your life around. Because if you're your genuine self and you hate yourself still, and you're not fake whatsoever, then that means something needs to change. And Jesus is the only one that'll be able to show you what needs to change and what needs to happen.
And that said, you got to count the cost of being that disciple or making that decision, because I'm not saying that, okay, now I got Jesus, now I can expect change. The change that occurs might suck. It could be horrible.
Yeah.
Because in my case, we're piddling around as a young couple, me and Mom. I'm working in a church as a personal trainer. I'm volunteer. It's my first official church job, right? I'm a personal trainer in a church. And so I'm going to church every week. I'm serving in the church. So I'm being a productive citizen of the kingdom. I'm doing all my martial arts schools. And, I'm making money. I'm doing my thing. I'm not yet called to ministry. But I'm a good Christian, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't doing anything Christian other than going to church. I wasn't reading my Bible every day. I'd read it a little here and there.
Yeah.
Especially right before we went to church, I might read a chapter and then go to church.
To get you in the mood.
Yeah, get me in the mood. So I'd go through the motions, and that was repetitive week after week, and some things started to come through. But then God got a hold of me and called me.
Yeah.
And when he called me, I was like, well, screw everything else. King of the universe just called. Who am I to deny that? Yeah. I'm all in 100%. So what do? I quit everything I was doing before. Everything comes to a screeching halt, and I enroll in the first online Bible school I can get into. Yeah. And I just I'm in ministry today. It was like one day I'm a martial arts instructor with 4 schools. The next day I'm in full-time ministry. So I show up at my uncle's church what are we doing today? He was like, what do you want? What are you doing here? He didn't know what to do with me, But I was like, well, I'm in ministry now. God called me, so show me what to do. Well, go clean the toilet. Nope. Okay, I guess that's what I got to do.
Yep.
So I was just cleaning toilets and not caring much about it. That's what I did, and I loved it. I just made that. The Bible tells us that the greatest among you will be the servant of all. That's what Jesus told his disciples. So I was like, well, if I want to be the greatest, I got to be the servant of all. And what better way than to clean their toilets?
Yeah.
So I did that for the next 10 years. And I made that a part of everything I did. Even when I got regular jobs later on as youth pastors or pastor or whatever the case may be, I was the one that took it upon myself to always go back, humble myself, clean that toilet, clean them bathrooms. I'm not afraid to dive in and do it now. I do it often. So all that said, when we made the decision, everything we had in the world, because I was following the world and its pull and what everybody commended me on, telling me was good, smart decisions as a young man to make, I was gaining some traction in the world. At a young age, I was put in the U.S. Martial Arts Hall of Fame, so I'm at the top of my game at a very young age, training with the best in the world. So I had nowhere to go but up. I had not even reached the pinnacle because I was your age when that happened.
Yeah.
That's messed up. So I had a long way to go. All that said, when God called, I accepted the call. I did not count the cost at all. I just whatever I'm in, I let it all burn. And then he was like, do you really want to follow me? Yep, I'm in. And so we progressively, year by year, over the next handful of years, lost everything.
Yep.
I had stacks of awards and documents and martial arts awards. I just lit on fire and got rid of it, and burnt it as an offering because there was nothing going to hold me back. So when you make the decision to be that disciple, if you're truly in, count the cost and demonstrate, prove that you are in it to win it. I became more passionate about the things of God than anything else. I still am.
Yeah.
Even though that's been tempered. I hit a point in my middle age where I was like, everything I say is a battle. It's just a nonstop battle. That was a 10-year fight, and I got sick of fighting it. That's why I started a survival school. And then I started a new kind of battle.
Yep.
What was to train me for what we're doing now. But all that aside, it's through that hardship and battle that I learned a whole new skill set and a whole new appreciation for the gifts that He placed on me, and I got to help a whole new people group that weren't being ministered to.
Yeah, that's very true.
The big thing that we never put on you, the reason pastors' kids or church kids suffer so much is because they're indoctrinated with religion and not relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's something that I know that you got to see, because I would know when you were lying to me as a kid.
Yeah.
And it would often, I know it blew your mind sometimes, because I could read your mail, and you'd be like, how do you even know this stuff? It's because I'd go in my prayer closet and I'm like, Jesus, show me what He's doing. And when I'd pray for my kids individually, I would ask the Lord to visually show me what they're doing. And I could go and speak to it. And when they'd be getting ready to tell the lie, I could tell them what they were going to tell me. And am I right? Am I making that up?
No, not at all.
So,
yeah,
I mean,
it's true.
That's how I rolled. They got to see relationship with Jesus, because I talked to Jesus openly, often. I had mostly a lot of private time, because I'm always deciding, you know how it is.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you don't know how it is. You're always writing, training, discipling. You'd be amazed at how busy you can be doing this stuff. All that said, they knew what I was doing, or what I was out there trying to do.
Yeah.
Writing, creating to be a blessing for more people. You got to see a relationship side. You were never beat down with religion. When religion would rear its head, we'd go chop it off, because we hate it. We don't want nothing to do with that. The traditional stuff and the way it's been taught. That's what a reformer is. A reformer cuts the head off of the snake. And a reformer, which is what God called me as when I was called to ministry, I was called as a reformer, which really screwed me up. Because I didn't have any, I had no grid for that. They all die. Okay, what's that mean? That's all I knew.
Yeah.
So it took me 20 years to kind of get a grasp on that, but that's fine. A reformer is the one that changes the norm. What has been seen as normal, and they correct it and say, this ain't right. And if I'm the only one saying it ain't right, like I have been for many years about many different topics and things going on in the church.
Yeah.
And funny thing, it's only the church that ever attacks me.
Yeah.
I don't get attacked by unbelievers. They're like, okay, cool. If they're interested, they're like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more.
Yeah.
Then I got you, right? But if they're like, okay, cool, do your own thing. Okay, I'll sow some seed and move on. It's the Christians that are the worst to deal with. People that think they know. The light they think they have is actually darkness. Those kind of people.
Yeah.
I don't like to mix religion with my bushcraft. Well, me neither. Why are you talking? I'm not talking, a mixture of religion and bushcraft, because if you separate your bushcraft from your relationship with Jesus, then you don't have a relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
If you separate your business from your relationship with Jesus, you ain't got a relationship with Jesus, you got a religion. And religion, you can separate from your business.
Yeah,
religion, you can separate from your survival and survival. And
Yeah.
see, I'm programmed. We say dumb things, and that's one of the dumb things I say.
Yeah.
Survivaling in the wilderness. So anyway, if you can separate it, you got a religion. There is no relationship.
Yeah.
So you need to repent and get your heart right. And you guys didn't get that growing up.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big reason why you didn't have all the standard struggles that we hear about with pastors' kids due to the church hurt, the abuse, things of that nature. Anthony Rowe talks about that a little bit when we'll get to share his interview soon. And that's something that he talks about in his interview, is that, the types of a little bit of church hurt and the things that happen, because he accepted faith at 5 years old. He knew that he knew that he knew at 5 years old that he was all about Jesus.
Yeah.
And then as a young teenager, he got saved, like legit saved. And his wife was, and just bam, they're rock solid in their faith. But even he admits he learned a lot of stuff, and he never really started reading his Bible until the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Which is shocking.
That's
because,
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of go along, and that's where we put it down. We assume that the one up there talking or telling us everything is right.
Yep, that they know their stuff.
They know their stuff, or otherwise they wouldn't be there, and there wouldn't be all these people there to support them.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And it's often the reverse.
Yeah.
It's
That really
often
is.
the guy out there in the woods all by himself saying, "Repent, you all suck!
Yeah.
Make straight the path for the Lord to travel." And everybody goes and looks at him like, "Look at that weird guy dressed in, Carhartt pants and got a dirty shirt, and he's got a knife on his hip." Kind of funny how that works. The John the Baptist type mentality, right?
Yeah.
He was crazy. Praise God, I'll be crazy too. I'll go out in the woods and yell at the trees until they start responding. People will come and look and go, "What's this guy yelling at the trees for?" And then I'll turn and say, "Who the hell invited you?" I was having a good time till you got here. And then we test them. Isn't that how it goes here?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much how it goes.
Yep, you discern the spirits and test them all.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And so that's the process that, I've trained my children in. I've trained my guys in as instructors and things like that. We're perfectly content with nobody around. We have good fellowship in the family.
yep.
And if you're in ministry or you want to be in ministry, then open communication about all things is key.
Yeah. If you want to really start ministry, I'd say you start with your house first.
Dude.
Or your family.
Yeah.
And because if you can't even, be open to share all that kind of stuff with your own family, how could you ever share that with anybody else? Because you're supposed to be making more family, making disciples, you're supposed to be making brothers and sisters.
Bam.
And if you're not doing that, then what are you even doing?
Nailed it. Yeah, I mean, I can't say that any better. That's dead on. That was the problem Robin and I had when we were first married and all. The first few years of marriage, just no communication. Because God was doing things in my life, and I expected her to catch up because she was there. And she was there when it was going on. She was there, so I was like, "Duh, don't you get it? You were there." But she didn't get the internal side or what I was getting, which was dumb on my part not to think of that. She can't read my mind. I don't know why. She can now, after 25 years. But all that said, communication is key, and we become codependent on it.
Definitely.
And you nailed it. When we make disciples, we're making bigger family. We're making brothers and sisters. And if you can't minister to your own family, and I suffer with this, I've said my piece to my actual brothers and sisters and parents and grandparents. I've said my piece so their blood would not be on my hands. But I have not made a concerted effort to continually minister to them or be in their face about certain things. Some of them I'll poke at, but I don't attack.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge for me. So to go look at it a little bit differently, because even I haven't thought of that. That's exactly what we're doing. We're making a bigger family.
Yeah.
So that's a good word to end this on. Thank you guys for joining me. Hopefully this gives you a little insight into Ethan, at least, and how our kind of relationship developed, and you know, as a PK, they call it, a pastor's kid, even though I'm not
Yeah.
a pastor, you know, a ministry kid, you know, and a little bit of our journey and growth in that realm. So anyway, guys, thanks a lot for joining us. God bless you.
So guys, just remember to like, share, and subscribe. We want this to go out to everybody because we want everyone to be a part of our community and grow a bigger family together. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.